So they say you need at least 5 years, ideally 10, to go back and look at who really won the draft, who winners and losers. Go back through and go back through every single pick. Cause look, should have been that guy. I mean, how did they not know that this 7th-round pick was going to be a Hall of Famer? I mean, that stupid dummies ahead of them, right? But now for the Vikings, you're looking at this year where if you're trying to find as similar of a facsimile as what the Vikings have going on in this draft with the 22 and 25th overall pick, you got an extra first-round pick because you traded away your superstar wide receiver. You have to go back to 2013. So that was the draft where the Vikings were set up with 23 and 25 overall. And they had an additional first and 2014 third-round pick from the Percy Harvin trade. Remember, we have no intention of trading Percy Harvin. There should be no reason to. We do not expect Stephon Diggs not to be a Viking or whatever it was. But remember, there was a run of 3 years there where the Vikings came away with multiple first-round picks. But that was all set up because it happened in the draft. It didn't come in going to the draft. It happened during the draft, where 2012 Harrison Smith fell. Vikings trade up, go get him from the second round. 2014, Ted Bridgewater fell to 32. They went and got him there. So 2013, even though they ended up with 3 third-round picks, which we'll get 3 first-round picks, which we'll get into in a sec, they came in with 2. So let's set the table here. So 2012, second year of the Leslie Frazier regime, which was peak Leslie Frazier, numero uno. 10-6, won the North. Adrian was the league MVP. It was phenomenal coming back from that late season ACL from 2011. And then the Vikings were kaput. I mean, the one and done. Yeah, remember the Joe Webb playoff game, wild card weekend in Green Bay? Good times. Good times. But like we said, this was the draft where it looks so similar to what the Vikings are going to be set up now with 22 and 25. Because, like I mentioned, trading Percy Harvin to Seattle for 25 overall, as well as a 2014 third-round pick, which turned into Jerick McKinnon, who was very serviceable, nice little rotational run back for a while there. Needs coming in. So the Vikings need to freshen up a defensive tackle. I mean, Kevin Williams was not the player that he used to be, borderline Hall of Famer in my book. I mean, yeah, Christian Ballard, who was, I believe, a 4th-round pick out of Iowa either the year before or 2 years before, one of the two. It's like, it's sort of like Jaleel Johnson, another 4th-round defensive tackle from Iowa. Please pan out. Or Jalen Holmes, another 4th-round defensive tackle. Let's please work here. They did have a need at middle linebacker because Jasper Brinkley was gone. He had been starting there for a couple seasons. Audie Cole had been re-signed. So that was the draft. Remember that everyone and their mom was like, Manti Te'o. How can he go wrong? Because even though we can't see him, he's going to be phenomenal in this defense here. But didn't quite work out there. Wide receiver, obviously a position need, replacing Percy Harvin, as well as they had to replace Michael Jenkins, who they had let go for some reason. Cornerback-wise, they released Antoine Winfield. He ended up spending training camp with the Seahawks that year. But, hey, they had Josh Cook and Josh Robinson, or Chris Cook and Josh Robinson. Let's go. So the Vikings, position need, D-tackle, middle linebacker, wide receiver, cornerback, etc. So there you go. So now, getting into the picks. So the 2013 draft was, and still is, seen as one of the weaker drafts in recent memory, where, look at the top end, man. Like, this is a draft where Geno Smith thought that he was going to go number 1 overall, and he was sitting in the green room. This is back when it was at Radio City Music Hall. He had a red tie on because, like, well, Chiefs picking 1, I'm obviously going 1. And then he fell. It was bad. It was no bueno. So in this draft, it was not a great quarterback draft. E.J. Manuel ended up going 16 to the Bills. And E.J. Manuel, the fact that you were on the bench because of Christian Ponder, that ain't good. That ain't a good look. So getting into this. So Chiefs go with Eric Fisher in 1. Now, Eric Fisher has panned out to be a relatively decent tackle. Right now, is he number 1 overall pick? No. Certainly isn't in that ballpark, but he panned out better than Luke Jokel, where this was where there started to be a transition where they're starting to judge these offensive linemen coming from air raid schemes where the ball got out quick, you're not necessarily having full pass sets, etc. So I was like, Luke Jokel has given up a sack or a pressure in 3 years or something like that. So he went high, obviously did not work out. And so this was the fact that just even looking in the top 13 picks, so only 4 Pro Bowlers. Ziggy Ansah has already passed the sell-by date. Eric Fisher is meh, whatever. How do you make a Pro Bowl, by the way? That's what I want to know. Lane Johnson is the only real superstar in the top half of the draft. Sheldon Richardson is pretty damn solid, of course. We know that. But I mean, Kyle Long's retired. Eifert can't stay on the field. Trufant is whatever. Eric Reed has already bounced around a couple times. Xavier was good for a hot second. Nuka is the only legit superstar still doing it, and Travis Frederick is already retired. So of this entire first round, there are only like 2 star players, Nuke and Lane Johnson, which is amazing if you think about it. Just absolutely amazing. So this is, let's review the picks before we get to the Vikings here. So this is an absolute train wreck. So Deion Jordan, workout wonder. This is where the Dolphins trade up from 12 to 3. And also tossed in a second round pick. Sure. Lane Johnson went 4. Ziggy Ansah coming out of BYU went to the Lions. No big deal. Kiki Mingo, they're like, oh, he's going to be Danielle Hunter before Danielle Hunter. Yeah, not so much. He bounced around the league for a while as well. Jonathan Cooper, not so much. Tavon Austin, where Percy Harvin helped create this myth of Tavon Austin, where it's like, oh, he's a slightly slender Percy Harvin. No. Also, look at Tavon Austin's career earnings, which is just so not in line with the type of player that he was. It was just amazing. Dio Milner was a bust. Alabama had quite a few high-end draft picks this year, which turned out to be, again, not so much. DJ Fluker, no. Chance Warmack was abysmal. DJ Hayden was terrible and was bunted from the Raiders early on. Jets picking up Sheldon. Then he went to the Seahawks and with the Vikings. Now he's with the Browns. Star Lulelele, who was like okay for a hot second. Now he's bounced around the league. Kenny Vaccaro's decent. See here. EJ, not so much. Jarvis Jones. What bugged me about Jarvis Jones is that they already put like the hype train on. Now, I understand that like national chains have to sort of bet on the come on some of these players, but Jarvis Jones got a Subway contract back when Subway was a thing before Jared went to jail for reasons. And yeah, they're like, of all the people that from this draft, Jarvis Jones, okay. Eric Reed was damn good for the Niners for a hot second. Now he's in Carolina. Justin Pugh, where did he end up? Is he in Arizona? He's somewhere, but he's a guard now. Kyle Long's retired. Tyler Eifert can't stay healthy. Desmond Trufant was good for a hot second with the Falcons, and now he's gone as well. All right, so now the Vikings sitting at 23. So just looking at the board, so they have nearly back-to-back picks here. So Dayton Jones, who went to the Packers, by the way, was in camp for the Vikings for a while, so that's kind of neat. But the Vikings, remember, positions of need: linebacker, defensive tackle, wide receiver, cornerback, right? So, man, just imagine if they went wide receiver at 23 or 25. And again, it's the whole going back and revisionist history thing. But, Nuke Hopkins, who was second wide receiver off the board. Man, Tavon also was the first wide receiver off the board. That's still just derelict and do. So 2013, also coming in, there was no consensus like number 1 overall pick. It was really tough to see. Like some people had Geno Smith, some people had one of the tackles. Some people had Ziggy Ansah, Lane Johnson. Like it was really a big crapshoot. But you will go back and see, especially like Mel Kiper, one of his first mock drafts had Sharif Floyd either as like 2nd or 3rd overall pick, where it's like, oh, there's a lot of hype on him, and also this is when the draft Twitter and draft social network, the Draft Nicks, is really starting to take off. So everyone and their mom was in on Sharif Floyd, except the fatal flaw for Sharif, the short arms, and of course we talked about how the league will ding players that they don't check all the boxes, they don't fit inside this box of what you want someone to be. So they completely ignored that Sharif was a wrecking ball at Florida. They completely ignored that Sharif Floyd had one of the best first steps for a defensive interior lineman of the past decade, right? So the fact that the Vikings were able to land Sharif at 23 was just amazing. It was like manna from heaven. Colts went Bienvenue, not so much there. And then 25, the Vikings, they could have gone Nuke Hopkins, I guess. Cornerback-wise, who else was in the vicinity? Darius Slay, okay. Jonathan Banks, Slay's teammate at Mississippi State, not so much. David Amerson, it turned out like okay. Jamar Taylor, definitely not. Robert Alford was okay for a hot second there with the Falcons. Had that pick 6 in the Super Bowl. But yeah, the Vikings being able to get Rhodes here. Trufant went early. DJ Hayden was the second quarterback off the board. Sorry, D. Miller. So, the fact that Rhodes here was the 4th quarterback off the board And you could easily say that he had the highest ceiling or highest peak of a career of any of the quarterbacks on here, except maybe Slay. It's not bad, even though we know how this train wreck turned out. So then a couple picks go by, and this is when Rick Spielman was having a press conference when he was talking about, we're excited about Sharif Floyd and Xavier Rhodes, and we think that they bring a lot to the table and really helps out with his defense. And Leslie Frazier is really going to do some good things. And then he was called out of the press conference because Bill Belichick. Hey, Rick, it's Bill Belichick. We're looking to trade here. So the Vikings do trade back into the first round. Now they gave up a second, third, fourth, and a seventh, and ironically, they ended up getting the seventh back in a trade, which but so essentially 2, 3, 4 up for 29. Pick Cordero Patterson, who, I mean, in terms of overall impact, he is the greatest kick returner of all time. I mean, you cannot take that away from him. He is also a multiple-time All-Pro, which is something that the Vikings have had few and far between in recent years. So, I mean, was the Cordero pick a success or a failure? I mean, success, I guess, if you wanted the kick returner as well as All-Pro, but also the fact that he didn't turn into that gadget player that you expect him to be. He didn't turn into the full route tree receiver that you wanted him to be, although there was 0% chance that was ever going to happen. But also, I blame Norv. Because Norv was such a stickler. Like, 84, Cordero Patterson, he does not run proper routes. You know who runs proper routes? Charles Johnson, the guy I brought with me from Cleveland. Yeah, so he's going to play as opposed to letting one of the most dynamic athletes in the league at that time just get the ball by hook or by crook any way we can force feed it to him. Yeah, let's do that up. Because remember, 2013, towards the end of the season, Bill 3x5 card Musgrave, he was actually using Cordero in interesting ways. And a lot of it was really simple. It's like, hey, line Cordero up at running back. We're going to toss him the ball in like a eye sweep, right? And also there was a couple times where, if you go back and look at the film, Cordero was given like a pass option. So Bill Musgrave was more creative in incorporating Cordero Patterson than Norv Turner. I squarely blame Norv Turner for Cordero not working out here with the Vikings, but that is truly another argument for another day. So the Vikings, even though they gave up 2, 3, 4, check. So you got the D tackle, you're good to go. You got the wide receiver, Cordero Patterson. You got Xavier Rhodes. So you think check. All those boxes check. The only thing you didn't get was middle linebacker. Now the Vikings had overtures to Manti Te'o. A lot of fans, when the Vikings trade up to 29, thought it was like, oh, here comes Te'o. Here he goes. Because consensus was like, well, how can he fall? Like, how he's a top 10 pick for sure, but also I think this is starting to be the shift where value in 2-down thumper middle linebackers was certainly going the way of the dodo. I mean, the value on running backs was already starting to fizzle out as well, so it was gone there. So in the Vikings, let's see here. I had searched up. There we go. Oh, what happened? There we go. Shut that back up because I'm good at technology and stuff. All right, so Minnesota. There we go. And then the second round pick that they 2, 3, 4, 7 that they sent to the Patriots actually turned out to be a nice little get for the Patriots. So Jamie Collins turned into a really good linebacker for them. Also went to the Browns for a hot second, and then third round pick Logan Ryan, who the Vikings should still sign, by the way, after the draft and after compensatory pick window is closed. But Logan Ryan, really good slot cornerback there for the Patriots, and then eventually the Titans for the last 3 seasons. And then also the fourth round pick. So the Vikings had an extra fourth rounder from a Detroit Lions trade in 2012. So the Vikings sent the Patriots wanted 2. Turns out to be Josh Boyce, wide receiver from TCU. Nothing there. Vikings finally got back on the horn. They addressed that linebacker spot. Gerald Hodges coming out of Penn State, where I liked Hodges. And it actually birthed something that we call the Hodges factor, where Armon Watts certainly has a little bit of this, where the Vikings did not give Gerald Hodges the time of day very often early in his career, but whenever he's on the field, whether it be special teams, whether it be in base defense, like good things happen. So that's a Hodges factor, a guy that doesn't play a lot, but when he's there, he gets his value. But then eventually they traded him to the Niners, I believe, for Nick Easton and a draft pick or something like that. But yeah, it is what it is. Into the fifth. So the Vikings picking up Jeff Locke. Yeah, this is what the Chris Cooley got so mad. Hey, they didn't call me and tell me that they're drafting my replacement. Okay, deuces. And Jeff Locke, not so much, but he actually was good his final season, and then he was like, "No, screw you guys. I'm going to." He signed with the Colts, I believe. So 6th round, Vikings, Jeff Baca. This is the run where they're sort of cocky. It's like, well, we got John Sullivan in the 6th. We got Brandon Fusco in the 6th. So, I mean, we can just drive into your offensive lineman in the 6th and we'll be fine. Not so much. So Baca was not so much. Mike Maudie was pretty damn good there for a while. I mean, those knees, that health, whatever. Eventually, he went to the Saints, I believe, right? Yeah. But Rick has done this before in just where he drafts teammates. And this is the prototype of Barr and Kendricks getting Hodges and Maudie at the same time, as well as guard Travis Bond from North Carolina. And then also, this is the 7th round pick that the Vikings eventually got back from New England via Tampa Bay. So Everett Dawkins, the defensive tackle from Florida State. So the Vikings were trying to double back down on interior defensive line, but Dawkins, I don't even think he made the team. Oh, but also, here we go. So the Vikings came out of UDFA with 2 future starters, right? First one, Zach Line, who was a tailback at SMU. Well, spoiler, whatever. Who was a tailback at SMU that they bulked up for a little bit. They haven't played fullback, and he was great. He replaced Jerome Felton, and eventually Zach Line was replaced by C.J. Ham. Zach Line still now with the Saints, right? And then also, so Vikings, they got their wide receiver in the draft. They didn't know it was the UDFA guy. They didn't know that the guy that they traded up heaven and earth to get up to 29 wasn't going to be the guy. But Adam, Jerome, Ezekiel Thielen from Mankato State University, Detroit Lakes enthusiast, was going to be the freaking man. Yeah, so I guess in a roundabout way, it did work out. I know, but just looking through, so Adam Thielen obviously is a stud, going to be a Vikings Ring of Honor. He's a top 50 Viking of all time. Pretty easy there. Sharif Floyd, if he didn't have the injury, he didn't have that botched surgery, I still think of the best parts of Sharif Floyd. He was unblockable. He was a full-on one-gap wrecking crew, and it was just the best first step in the game. He really, really did. Go back and watch clips of 73, just getting off that ball. His timing of the cadence, his reaction time to the ball being snapped, it was just amazing. It was otherworldly when he was really on and dialed in. Xavier Rhodes, I mean, we saw peak Xavier Rhodes. We saw the downside of Xavier Rhodes. Was it worth it overall 25? I mean, you got 3 to 4 years of good cornerback play. You got 1 year of the best cornerback play in the league. It's probably up there. Cordero Patterson, the best kick returner of all time, sure. And then also you get Adam Thielen later on. So overall, I mean, would you say this draft was a success? Probably. I mean, 7-8 years removed, you only one guy still on the team. Last year you had 2 guys still remaining on the squad. But yeah, I mean, in terms of value that you're potentially looking for, I mean, this is not a bad haul, and this is something that the Vikings could expect this year. Because, like we said, this is the closest facsimile to what the Vikings have coming in this year: 22 and 25 in the first round. Will they come away with 3 first-rounders? I mean, they have the draft capital to do it with that extra 3rd-round pick coming as a compensatory pick, as well as extra 6 and 2 extra 7s, which, whatever. But also, I think this could be a great spot for the Vikings to trade down and try and accumulate as many 2nd-round picks as possible. But it's going to be fun to see how this plays out. And I can't wait in 7-8 years to go back and look at this as well and be like, they should have took the UDFA guy. I knew it. I called it. But what are your thoughts reviewing the Vikings 2013 draft? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support the work, pull us up on the Venmo. Please give us a follow on social media as well. Until next time, Skull Production Value.